Click recording. And we're now recording. So the floor or the screen is yours, Osvel.
Thank you. Okay, we'll share my screen presentation. Thank you so much, Frank, for your help and support. And thank you, everybody, for joining us in this presentation. We're very glad to be here today sharing with you the program, the Coastal Solutions Fellows Program at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. My name is Osvel Hinojosa. I'm the director of the program. I'm originally from Mexico. I live now in Ithaca, New York. I'm very glad to be participating in this festival because I used to live in Tucson. I did my PhD at the University of Arizona. So yeah, very, very glad to be here. I will talk a little bit about the program, and then Medardo Cruz, he's a fellow of the program. He will talk about his project, no? And so why is it important that we do this program? Now you probably all have seen the information and the report, no, that we have lost about 3 billion birds in the last 50 years. And in particular, one of the groups that has declined the most are shorebirds. Now we have lost about 37% of shorebirds in the last 50 years. And also, as you probably know, shorebirds are in a big part migratory. No, they breed in the US and Canada, in Alaska, and then they move south, no, in the fall, and to spend the winter, like this western sandpiper, that they spend the winter in Mexico, but some species move as far south as Chile, no? And in order to survive, these birds really need all of these priority sites that they use during their migration. So we really need to work with multiple partners for the conservation of these species. And also they use a diversity of sites, no? They use coastal marshes and mudflats, and also in a diversity of conditions. We've seen some places that are very well protected, and some areas are under huge stress from development, no? And we can see here on the lower left, Panama Bay, and you can see how development is encroaching into the mangroves. And there are a number of threats, no, that are affecting the wetlands and coastal sites that shorebirds use. Industrial development, tourism, recreation, aquaculture, pollution. No? So we also need to address multiple threats, working with multiple stakeholders. And something really important is that to be very effective in coastal conservation, we really believe that the best way is to work with local partners in all of these countries, in all of these sites, no? Rather than having a US organization coming and trying to establish offices along these sites. It's better to create these partnerships and create capacity for conservation along the flyway. And so one strategy that has been developed, and it's something that has been brewing, no, for the last 20 years, is the Pacific America's Shorebird Conservation Strategy. And this was done together by a number of partners along the whole Pacific Flyway. National Audubon Society led this effort, but really it's a collaborative work to try to identify the priority sites and what we need to do in each of the sites. So it provides like a general framework, no? But then after that, we started a process to talk with conservation experts and shorebird ecologists, but also with land use planners and architects, engineers, decision makers, to try to figure out, well, how do we implement the strategy and how can we start making a difference, no, for shorebirds and reverse that trend. And there are multiple challenges that were identified in this process, but one of them is that typically we have biologists and conservationists working, no, to try to protect these sites, typically within NGOs and universities. And then on the other hand, typically we have the land use planners and architects and engineers, planning development, typically in the private sector, in some government agencies. And there is this divide, there is no effective communication and interaction between these two big sectors. And of course, we know the results of that. So one of the strategies that we have been implementing to the Coastal Solution Fellows Program is to create that bridge between the two sectors, create a platform where we break these silos and really encourage the integration of sectors for coastal conservation and resiliency, but then also to create what we're calling the hybrids, young professionals that can understand both sectors and needs and tools for effective coastal conservation. And that's how the Coastal Solution Fellows Program was started, as a joint partnership between the Packard Foundation and the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. This is our overall goal, to improve coastal resiliency along the Pacific Flyway of Latin America through cross-sectoral collaborations and capacity building for early career leaders. So we see this program as an opportunity to cultivate emerging leaders. So this is a 2-year fellowship at Cornell University to leverage scientific knowledge with advances in engineering and design for effective coastal conservation. And so, yeah, the fellows become part of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and part of Cornell University, so they have an academic affiliation with Cornell. And during the 2 years, there are multiple training retreats and workshops, as part of of creating capacity. And the fellows receive funding. Each fellow during the 2 years received $80,000 for the implementation of their conservation project. So all of the fellows are in their countries on their side. They come to Cornell for training sessions, but they are based on their countries implementing their coastal solution project. And then also we encourage the creation of networks, the connectivity between people to promote larger conservation initiatives. And one of the reasons of having the fellowship here at Cornell is, of course, we have the resources of the lab, but there are also multiple departments at the university that can help and support the fellows, from landscape architecture and civil environmental engineering to sustainability. And we started the program in 2018 with our first call for application. So the first cohort was launched in 2019. And every year we have 6 fellows, but they come with their mentors, collaborators, and partners. So over the next 5 years, we expect to reach over 150 leaders and experts from different sectors and disciplines working for coastal conservation in Latin America. And then also we have an advisory board that help us to define the main strategies for the program. So we have 15 experts from all along the continent and from different organizations. Now we have people from NGOs, like Point Blue and Audubon, people from universities, people from agencies, but also people from the private sector, especially from the strategic planning and landscape design. And that helps us to understand those connections better. So these experts are really helping us to shape the program. And so the fellows, they are citizens of Latin America, and they can be scientists, conservation biologists, but also architects or engineers. They need to be early career professionals in the private, academic, or nonprofit sector, but they can also be graduate students, or researchers at the university. So this is the general design. At the center of anything, of course, are the fellows, and they need to identify a priority site to work, a specific threat they want to address, and they need to form their collaborative team, that includes a mentor, somebody with experience, but that is from the same discipline than the fellow, and what we call a cross-sectoral collaborator, also somebody with experience, but from a different discipline. For example, if the fellow is a biologist, the cross-sectoral collaborator can be an engineer, an architect, or an expert in public policy. And the idea is that through this team, they can start bridging the sectors and disciplines, and then also they can invite international collaborators. And the idea is that together they help the fellow to create their coastal solution project to have really conservation impact at their priority site. So these are our first two cohorts, the ones in 2019 and the one in 2020. Medardo is part of the 2020 cohort. This is when they visit the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in Ithaca for their first retreat. And in May of this year, we launched our third cohort. Because of the pandemic, the retreat of the third cohort had to be online, but we hope that we can meet with them soon and start some of the in-person meetings. And so, yeah, every year we launch or call for applications to find the next generation of leaders. Next Monday, we're going to launch our next call for applications. So if you visit our website or in Facebook, you will see our call for applications if you know anybody that might be interested in applying. We have received over 300 applications already from all of the target countries in the Pacific Flyway and pretty much from all of the priority sites. So now we have the 18 fellows in Mexico, in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Panamá, Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And from this diversity of disciplines, so we have people, fellows that are biologists, but also resource managers, planners, engineers, and architects. But all of them have this combination of interests and disciplines. And so, yeah, some of them are working on landscape architecture, others more in restoration and ornithology, but all of them have to think about governance and public policy and outreach and legal mechanisms. And also all of them are involved in NGOs, universities, companies from the private sector, stakeholders, and agencies. I will just mention briefly some of our fellows. Juanita Fonseca, she's working in Ensenada Pabellones in Sinaloa. And her project is really interesting. She's a shorebird ecologist. She completed her PhD, and she has been working with shrimp farms, to define best management practices at shrimp farms to improve their value for shorebirds. And she has identified that some of these farms can provide important habitat. At the same time, she's working with partners to make sure that the impact of shrimp farms is limited into protected sites along the coast. Richard Johnston, he's also, he completed his PhD at Simon Fraser University in Canada. He's from Colombia. He's working in the coast of Nariño in Colombia, looking into the future, climate change and how this will impact the availability for shorebirds, but also the resources for communities. So his project is really community-based conservation, working with the communities there on how to protect the mangroves and the mudflats for the people and for the shorebirds. And he's based a lot of his work on remote sensing and models, but also at the same time working with the fishermen there in the communities. And Manuela Erazo, she's an environmental anthropologist working in the Tubulraqui wetland in Chile. She's also working with a community of fishermen, and her project is about creating a natural protected area for this very important wetland, and creating a management plan that it's also community-based. So it's not only creating this protection figure, but also all of the governance mechanisms to secure the proper management of the site in the long term. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the fellows and about the project and the program, you can visit our website, or you can visit our Instagram page or Facebook page. And now I want to introduce Medardo Cruz Lopez. As I mentioned, he is a Coastal Solution Fellow from the 2020 cohort, and he has been working to protect and restore a wetland it's called Ceuta in Sinaloa in Mexico, working in particular with snowy plovers. So yeah, take it away, Medardo, if you want to share your screen.
Okay. Can you see the
Yes.
screen? Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you the opportunity that you gave me to show you some of the work we are doing in the last few years here in Ceuta and also in Mexico. I was working for some years in northwest of Mexico, and first of all, thank you for the opportunity for this festival. Okay, I see. I see. I think perhaps many of you are familiar with this image. And in this paper, Rosenberg shows that about the 29% of birds have been lost in the last 5 decades in North America. These represent the loss of about 3 billion of birds in 50 years. And the thing is, these changes in the abundance of birds are closely related to the loss of biomass too. And how, as you can see in this image, the grassland are the most affected biome, and wetland is apparently the only that has increased across the year in these 15 years presently. Of course, these changes in the biomes have affected and benefited certain groups of birds. For example, the raptors and the waterfowl group has increased their abundance. But why are these groups increased? Well, most waterfowl are dependent on wetlands, and especially inland and brackish wetlands. And thanks to protection and restoration programs, wetlands are one of the few biomes that have increased in the last years. But what about the shorebirds, for example? And here I'll show you this map, which I modified from Bula et al., where I for shorebird breeding sites. And as you can see, the Arctic tundra and coastal areas are used like the breeding site for shorebirds. The problem, the problem is that both biomes show losses in the abundances of this bird. And that is the reason why 68% of species of shorebird are declining only in North America. So this is it's like a alarming situation, because shorebirds are very important for some services especially in the coastland. However, the problems for shorebirds don't end in North America. During the boreal winter, shorebirds migrate to warmer region and flock by thousands to very specific sites. But this behavior or this migration are affecting this group of birds. Okay, let me show you this too. The data indicate that there is a great loss of bird abundance in the region to which shorebirds migrate. As you can see, practically in Mexico, Central America, and also South America, is very evident that also the are changed in the last 15 years. And the most, for me, I think the most alarming situation is with the coast. The coast are losing or has been changed around of 45%, which this is a problem because most of shorebirds are using these areas for during the migration. and also for breeding and feeding. Okay, but what are we doing to stop the loss of bird in temperate and neotropical regions? Well, northwest of Mexico is maybe the most important region used by like a stopover on wintering sites by shorebirds. And such is the importance of this region in northwest of Mexico that 6 projects of coastal solutions are located in this region. And as you can see in this map, practically we are working in maybe in 6 of the most important sites for shorebirds. And this also in this region in northwest of Mexico. In Mexico, we have 20 sites which are important for shorebirds, and only northwest of Mexico are located 15 of these 20 sites. So that is the importance of this, specifically this region for shorebirds. And in this project, in this project, 6 projects, sorry, we are trying to deal with some important situations like mitigating disturbance to migratory shorebird and sustainable coastal and management plans, green infrastructure, and also the implementation of the best management practice in modified habitat, protection and restoration of shorebird habitat. All these projects apparently are like how say every fellow is working in this project, but the real thing is that actually between us we have a very close relation, and we are working together other fellows in these sites. And I want to show you this. Well, now I want to talk more specifically about my project. My project is carried out in Bahía de Ceuta, which is in Sinaloa, in the central coast in Sinaloa. And so far we have recorded 22 species of shorebirds, with most of shorebirds making use of these abandoned salt pans and to feeding during the winter and nesting during the spring and summer. And even years ago, these salt pans hosted around of 10% of all the breeding population of snowy plover. So this area is, well, in hectares is maybe 200 hectares. And in this area, we had some years ago 10% of all the breeders, the snowy plover breeders from Mexico. However, during the last 15 years, we were witness of change in the habitat. For example, sediment accumulation has led to mangrove colonization of nesting sites, and also this sedimentation and this mangrove colonization has been causing some trouble, like change in the hydrology and loss of nesting areas. And for example, you can see in this image how the mangroves colonize some of these ponds and the natural channel where the water entered to the salt ponds. This image is in 2007. The next one, 2013. And the next one, 2019. And as a consequence, the water doesn't reach around of 200 acres in the salt area and the salt ponds. Just here, which is in this pink area, and these sites are not used anymore by shorebirds. And just I want to show you again in this practically in this square in the top of in this image here, in this area, mangrove is increasing during the last 50 years. The problem is that now this channel is completely closed by mangrove, And the water that usually comes from tides are not this not enter more for the salt pans, and this is a problem for shorebirds in general. These changes have some negative consequence for shorebirds and use the site during their annual cycle. And for example, the number of shorebirds using the salt pans has been decreasing in the last year. And this, I want to show you this plot, this graph. And so these data are only for the salt pans. Of course, some shorebirds are using also the bay. However, this area sometimes is completely flooded, and so is practically is not available for shorebirds. So most of shorebirds are moving to the salt pans. The problem is that in the last year, the salt pans are completely dry during the winter, and so it's just a few individual or few species are used in this area for the salt pans. And other problem is that also these changes in the site have negative effects in the breeders. And for example, an availability analysis of the snowy plovers show a probability of extinction of 99% in the next 20 years of this population in Ceuta. But why is this population going to the extinction? Well, the main problem is the high chick mortality and by starvation and dehydration, and this is because the lack of water during the breeding season. So practically this place every year is the condition are worse and worse, and even this year during the breeding season we had only 55 nests of snowy plover, and most of plovers move to other area, which is nearly to the salt pans, to 3 kilometers, and we had only 12 nests in the salt pans. So also this is like a kind of ecological trap in the other side, because this side is very close to the water, and the thing is when high tides are coming, a lot of nests are lost by flood, and so yeah, it's a problem. So the idea now is that what can we do? Well, what can we do? We must first provide long-term protection of these sites, and because we know that the lack of water during the breeding and winter season is an important factor that impact negatively the population of shorebirds that make use of the area. The idea is bring some water back to especially to the salt pans, and for this we need the first thing is we need to clean the tidal channel to lead the tidal water flows into the salt pans. Also, we need restore some make some restoration in some of these ponds which are abandoned around 40 years ago. And so the idea with this is make some change in the hydrology of this area, and with the idea to bring back water for this around 200 acres in the pink area, because practically this area is dry during all year, only with some water during the rain season. And these 200 acres are not used anymore for shorebirds, especially during the winter. It's completely dry, all this area. And as I mentioned before, we have close collaboration with other partners, with other fellows, and the good. Well, I think we have we are lucky because 3 of these projects, the Coastal Solutions program, are carried out in the same area, practically in Sinaloa. So practically we are covering all the south of Sinaloa with this project, and Juanita Fonseca. She's working in this place in Bahías Pabellones. I'm working in Ceuta, which is practically in the middle. And my good friend and partner, Alejandro, he's working in Ensenada Pabellones, and sorry, in Huizache Caimanero. And this guy is an engineer, and he's expert in this in modeling hydrological in coast, sorry. And practically we are working together in the hydrodynamic model, the entire bay. And this model is an important piece for restoration plan in the future. And for now, we have obtained the bathymetry data of all the bay, and here I show you how practically this is the water column dips and all the bay, and in average the bay have a run of 3.5 meters of deeper. And the final model will be ready in the next month. We think that maybe in 2 or 3 months will be ready, because in this moment we need to make some correction for the land area and these things to put together with the bathymetry data. In addition, we have working on a monitoring network for snowy plover in Mexico since 2015. And thanks to the collaboration with the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology in Germany, we place around of 110 GPS receptors. And in 5 of 9 breeding population where we are working in this snowy plover network. And this is ordered to know the movements and habitat use for snowy plover in Mexico. And I want to show you here some preliminary results from 2 males from Ceuta population. Okay, hopefully this works. Okay, practically these 2 males, these 2 individuals make use of coastal wetland in Sinaloa. So apparently the movement are very local to the local scale. But also it's important to highlight that these individuals make use of the other 2 sites where the project of the Coastal Solutions Program are being carried out. So that is the idea, to work together to bring some protection and also try to do some restoration things in these sites. And in this way, we can provide a better habitat for shorebirds and all other organisms, of course. Oops, no. And more recently, 2 members of the Coastal Solutions programs, we are collaborating in this expansion network of Motus Station in Mexico. And this project is led by Julian Garcia Walter, is this guy here, Julian. And the idea is to place this Motus Station in the most important coastal wetland in northwest of Mexico. And with this, we want to understand the connectivity, the habitat use and movement of shorebirds among breeding and non-breeding sites. And actually, we are planning to place 4 stations in September here in Sinaloa. And we have plans. Julian will come, or he's coming in September. And the idea is deploy 4 of these stations here in Sinaloa. And 1 of these stations will be in Ceuta, where I'm working, and Ensenada Pabellones, where Juanita Fonseca is working in the Coastal Solutions project, and 1 more in one of the most important sites for shorebirds in Sinaloa is Bahia Santa Maria, and one more close or nearly to the place where Alejandro is working in Huizache Caimanero. So that also, I think with this collaboration, the idea is practically work and understand this movement and habitat use. The same than the GPS receptors. The only problem with the GPS receptor that we use is that we need to capture the birds to double the data. So sometimes the recapture rate is low, and also sometimes the individual lost the receptor. So we think then with this use of this technology, the Motus technology is a better option in this case to study these different topics in movement of shorebirds and other species, of course. So this different and multidisciplinary approach and the use of new technology is helping us to better understand shorebird population in their breeding and wintering and stopover sites. It is allowing us to implement better protection strategies at the regional level and to propose mitigation actions and management plans or restoration of sites of which are important. They are important to hundreds of different organisms, not only the shorebirds, and of course also these include the humans. When we protect or we make some restoration of this habitat, we are providing some of these environmental service, which in some cases are lost because the degradation of this habitat. And that's the idea, to work together with other fellows here in Sinaloa and here in Mexico also. And also I have a very nice collaboration with Jonathan Vargas. He's working in Ensenada, Baja California, and we are good friends from several years ago, and we're working together in different projects, which I am very happy to have this opportunity to work in this program, because practically, well, Osvel mentioned this before, we are working together, other people with very different point of view. And sometimes for us, the people who are working, well, I'm biologist, I work more with ecology things. For us, sometimes it's very difficult to understand some of these concepts, especially when you are trying to do some restorations things. We think that we only need to move some of the soil, remove the soil, remove the sediments, or remove maybe some of these mangroves. And however, we need to know more specifically, for example, the hydrodynamic and the hydrology of the sites, because in other way, this action we think are good actions is probably they will be worse in the future. So that is a very nice opportunity to work together, other people with different point of view, different disciplines. So I think this is all, and I want
I think we just lost Medardo at the very end.
That's what I was going to ask. There's a couple of questions in the chat room, if it's appropriate to bring them up at this point. One is, do you also bring in communities into the collaboration strategy in addition to the professional expert fellows?
Yeah.
Josette, do you want to comment on that further?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's something that we encourage the fellows to do, and we do also bring experts, to talk about that, the strategies, tools, mechanisms that they can do to interact efficiently, and effectively with communities and bring them as partners in the conservation process. So yeah, absolutely, it's one of the key strategies that we use.
Great. Medado, we lost you for a little bit. Do you have further things to comment?
Okay.
We lost you just when you started this last slide and you were starting
This one.
You're thinking, no, at the very end.
Next one. There you go.
Starting
Okay.
to thank you.
Yeah. It's just if you have question.
There is one other question in the chat room then I'll raise. How much of your shorebirds decline has changed because of humans as opposed to natural? Medado?
Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, most of people, they're moving to the coast area. So practically the coastal areas is one of the most affected by humans, and also specifically some of these shorebirds are used in some areas which the humans think are like a waste areas, or which have no some use. How say this? Unusual areas. I don't know. Is which this area is. So the people think it practically is only some vegetation, and they are making some some transformation in this area, specifically, for example, the shrimp farms and these things. And here in Mexico, and here in the northwest of Mexico, practically all the northwest is completely full of these shrimp farms. So this, of course, these are affecting the shorebirds, but also some of our partners in the fellow program are working to try to do some change and planning and working together, the leaders of the owner of these shrimp farms to try to do the difference. No, yeah. So that's, yeah, of course, shorebirds are. Other thing is usually they are, when they are migrating, they use some specific site, and there are usually very large groups, and any change in this habitat or in these sites will affect the shorebirds and any shorebirds in the world.
You may have already answered this question, but the question I would have would be, what can people do? You're not going to stop people from moving to the coast. I mean, that's human nature. But what can people do then who live there? What can they do to help your programs and bring birds back?
Yeah, I wanted to comment a little bit on the previous question, and then I'll let Medardo comment on the next one. And no, I just wanted to mention that even some of the things that might appear to be non-human related, for example, sedimentation, they do have human causes, no? And that's something that we have seen through different projects. So for example, this increase in sediment load that comes from the basin into the coastal areas, and then are causing these hydrological problems on the coastal lagoons, no? Like what Medardo has been talking about. So there's always these confounding issues that there is very likely always a human component, no, into these modifications that we see. With climate change, of course, then there is all very global and present. But yeah, no, some are very direct, no, when people go and just develop an area. Others are more indirect, like for example, the sedimentation. And then other places you see the habitat intact, but then through recreation of people going and with off-road vehicles or unleashed dogs, causing that disturbance and affecting birds. No, so most likely than not, then there is always a human-related cause behind these declines. No?
I don't want to elaborate any further on that question, but the answer is also not just shorebirds, but it's also just in general, what can people do to protect birds and to encourage their rebirth, I guess, is one way to say it. Agata, do you have a comment, or are you okay? One other question came up. What's the biggest success that you've seen in the Fellows projects in the last few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of the projects are relatively young, no? So our first cohort started in 2019, so they're in their second year. Then of course with COVID, everything was slowed down a little bit. But there are some interesting success stories, no, in terms of, well, different dimensions, and for us that's the important part, no, that because we want to have impact in terms of the capacity for conservation, but then also we want to show impact in terms of what's happening at the sites, no? And so one of the success stories is one of the projects that Medardo was talking about with Jonathan Vargas, working in Ensenada, Baja California. Ensenada is on the Pacific coast, just about 2 hours from the US-Mexico border, about 2 hours out of San Diego. And again, he's working with snowy plovers, and there the issue is more about disturbance than habitat destruction. And so he working with the partner organization, the Terra Peninsular, is a local NGO. They work to protect the nesting sites for snowy plovers, creating enclosures and outreach campaigns and media campaigns, working with people and working with developers also. So they created a conservation easement, but then working with the local authorities to protect and fence these areas and exclude off-road vehicles, and also a whole campaign for dogs, no, so that people will not bring the dogs without a leash. And tremendous success. Basically, snowy plovers have stopped nesting in Ensenada. Now he has about 60 pairs nesting in Ensenada, no? And through that connectivity project that Medardo was also talking about, he has learned that this snowy plover population is connected with sites in California. So I really like that project and how the community has come together to protect the snowy plovers. And of course, this bring protection for the whole shorebird community, well, in coastal bird communities. No, least terns are also nesting in these areas. Another project I like a lot is by Flavio Ciarafia. He's working in Chile. He's a landscape architect, and his project is more about planning and conservation at a large scale. So he was able to develop or to promote a law in Chile for the protection of all urban wetlands, and this law was approved. So this is a great change in public policy in Chile. So now that wetlands within cities will be protected, and this creates mandates, but also funding for local authorities for the protection of wetlands in Chile. No, there is the project from Manuela, also working in Chile, which is very close for that creation of the nature sanctuary, and will protect about 5,000 acres in Tubolraqui. So yeah, no, the results are coming along. I'm very excited and very proud of what the fellows are achieving.
Just like to comment on the passion not only Osvel has, but Medardo, for the work that you're doing, and that's it's great to see. You love passionate people, and you're passionate about what you're doing. Bonnie, you've raised some good questions. Thank you very much. Are there other questions that you want to ask in the last couple of minutes? Anybody? I only see a couple of faces, so if you're not on the video, I don't see your hand raised. So if that's it, thank you very much. Again, the passionate that you guys have, I think that's just absolutely wonderful. The program is great. I wish there was more people involved, more that we could do. So thank you very much for the presentations, both of you. Thank you very much for the participants. Appreciate you being online. So if there's nothing else, we can, first of all, I guess I need to stop the recording, which I just did, I think.